CW. You know why? Torture. The coldness of the metal beneath my back was the first thing I noticed upon waking. There was nothing between my skin and that sensation, suggesting I'd been stripped of my attire. My eyes opened to find myself with thick steel bands wrapped all around me, multiple on each limb, around my waist, and one tightly around my neck. Fluorescent lights pointed down at me from overhead. I was stretched out like some guinea pig in an ASCAR lab, as the brown-furred bastards moved between rooms. There was no telling where they'd taken us, likely through the very tunnels in that supply center. But nobody knew where we were. None of the other humans were in this chamber with me, though I swore I could hear screams coming from down this hall. I could see a bag of what I assumed was my blood being studied under a microscope. Needles that must have been used to poke me looked like bull tranquilizers. Fear coursed through my veins, knowing that I was at alien scientists' disposal. I had to get out of here before I got turned into more of a lab experiment. I pulled, with all of my might, against the cuffs, but the overkill restraints did their job. A chuckle came from behind the top of my skull, though even when I rolled my eyes back as far as possible, it was tough to look. I recognized none other than Prince Laughably himself, inspecting the assets that he'd retrieved. This one is awake now, too. I was waiting on you. Captain, is it? Captain Preston Carter, I answered, trying to sound calm. Does Laughably understand our language? That's all I'm obligated to tell you by our prisoner of war laws, which I hope you'll respect. The noble glanced at a nearby scientist, then burst out laughing. Guess he does. Prisoner of war laws? Your metalback friends don't do those, and you sided with them. They've made our people suffer for intel, yes. We couldn't fucking torture them back, could we? Feelingless snots. We told them that was unacceptable. That's the truth. Really? Laughably's snout curled into a sneer, and he used a nasally voice. That's the truth. Really? No, here's the truth. We're going to figure out exactly what it takes to kill your species, exactly what works against you. I will make your life a living hell unless you tell me everything I want to know and then some. Panic was setting in at that prospect, terrified at what they had in mind for me, at how long I'd hold up mentally and physically. If Laughably said he wanted to run scientific tests on killing humans, that meant that I was about to die. While I'd been cavalier about the risks, I didn't want my life to be over. And I didn't want my end to come like this. The days of misery and torment ahead before my demise filled me with dread. My mind was filled with images of horrors that I could hardly imagine what they felt like. I was completely and utterly fucked. Having walked right into Laughably's pristine trap, he now had a bunch of human toys. Furthermore, Mikri was all alone on Jorlin, aside from a few of his Vaskar comrades. He was going to blame himself for all of this, when I was the moron who wandered off and left him behind. I could remember just how scared he was of losing me, and I'd never even had the chance to tell him goodbye. The mission had been going so well up until that point, where I'd felt downright invincible. Had the ESU succeeded in taking the military base? I knew they hadn't succeeded in finding the prince. This has to be a nightmare. Maybe I fell asleep in the drop pod. No, that was torture. I couldn't have. I have to. Stay strong and not give up anything about Earth. One shot through the gate and every molecule in that universe will be blipped out of existence. Everyone I ever knew. Not forthcoming? That's fine. I could use something fun to watch. Soften him up a bit, Tillian, Laughably instructed a scientist. I don't want the specimen dead. We already have one cadaver to poke at. I need this one in particular fully intact. Tillian blinked in surprise. That includes fingers? We've found success with... Leave the fingers alone for now. I noticed on the footage that there was a chip brain with art on its armor, rather curious. It seemed to be calling out to this one. We're leaving all of him available as a bargaining chip. The more we have to take away, the better. Horror and rage filled my chest. What are you trying to do to the chip brain? I thought you don't believe they can care about us. Laughably walked over, patting my arm sardonically. Don't you worry about that. You have your own problems. Though if you worry about your silver sheen so much, we don't have to involve it if you talk. You're insane. You're a demented freak with a wicked witch lair palace. Bring the spike machine over and test it on Captain Carter's hip bone. Let's see. Exactly how much force it takes to break that tough skin. Laughably retreated to a chair in the corner, and Tillian wheeled the requested machine over. There were several spikes that looked a bit like drills, with various sizes and forces applied. I could feel every muscle in my body go stiff with fear, as I tried to shy away, but was blocked by the table. I gritted my teeth to brace myself, and prayed I could keep myself composed. If I remembered what I was fighting for, surely I could remain strong. A spike lowered in slow motion, twisting and whirring, while my eyeballs couldn't look away from the impending doom. Holding back my screams would deny these sick fucks their satisfaction, so I had to try. Oh God, oh God, oh God. I hope the prince doesn't find Mikri because I don't want him to see this. To describe the pain as excruciating would be an understatement. It blotted out everything else in my mind like a supernova, an unbearable white-hot pain that made my nerves squeal in anguish. The feeling of a metal tendril boring a hole in my skin, ever deeper, was unbearable. My sole thought was to make the searing pain that radiated throughout my midsection stop, to beg or do anything to be free of this misery. I could feel the primal howl coming from my chest, and my legs spasmed and locked within those horrid clamps. When the drill paused and retracted, it was the greatest relief I'd felt in my life, as I sat there panting and drenched in sweat. I could see my wristwatch removed and lying on the counter, and realized with a pit enlarging in my stomach that mere minutes had passed. It had felt like a never-ending eternity. The machine rotated to a small pointed needle, before lowering it down once more. I realized that this one was burning hot and screamed at the top of my lungs, running my vocal cords ragged. The agony was blinding and all-encompassing. It was shocking how many times a man could wish for death within a few hours, and how many unbearable sensations my body was willing to pass along to my mind. The aliens mixed it up so I couldn't get used to it, as if I could ever learn to shut out such horrors. When I begged in a broken voice for water, they slapped a towel over my face and dumped a jug on me. I spluttered and choked, my animal brain screaming that I was drowning. After verifying how much electricity was useful, Tillian worked in shocks that made my convulsing body vibrate with pain. It was like barbed wire spreading through my flesh, never lessening. I lost the very sensation of myself. Everything that I felt was burned into my brain, as it melted together into one desire for an out. My strength and my will were broken when the circus stopped, having lost all notions of time or purpose. "Captain," Laughably declared in a giddy, sing-song voice, "tell me where your species comes from. I want an exact location of your planet, on a star map, and every last detail better match when more of your crew starts yapping. That, or we can start up again." Exhausted, at my body's limits, tears streamed down my face. Every nerve ending was on fire, and my brain was a whimpering puddle at the thought of the torture starting back up. "Go to... Yes?" the royal said, leaning closer. I stared straight at him, finding the last scrap of defiance within my shattered psyche. Channeling that, I spit as hard as I could into his face. "Hell, you'll fucking regret that." Laughably wiped the saliva from his chin with rage glowing in his eyes. The Askar grabbed a wooden board and swung it hard into my low abdomen. I weakly gasped in pain, wishing to nurse the tender flesh. "Get your lighter ready, Tillian. Burn his fingertips one by one, on my signal." The prince grumbled in disgust, pulling a lever to flip the table up to a vertical position. He moved a camera to focus on me, turned it on, and dusted off his paws with a certain smugness. I wasn't sure who he was broadcasting to, but my head hung lifeless. There wasn't much fight left in me to care. My hands curled into fists on instinct, before Tillian gave me a withering look and angled the lighter toward my groin. My eyes widened in alarm, and I unfurled my fingers in a flash. The Askar scientist snickered, and placed metal tubes around my digits to stop me from retracting them on instinct. Only the fingertips were left exposed. I gulped, finding myself bawling before they'd even started. "Please, don't do this." "Android. Look what we've done to your organic friend," Laughably sneered into a handheld radio, catching my attention. "I know you found a way into our communications network to listen for any sign of him. Hear the begging? We did this in a day. There might not be much left of his mind at all if you don't hurry. There was no reply over the line, to which the noble gave an indifferent shrug. Tillian started torching my pointer finger, ravaging the cluster of nerves and deadening my skin. I couldn't bite back the wild scream, despite Laramac's assertion that Mikri was watching. The prince grabbed a scalpel to carve into my cheeks while making eye contact with the camera. He huffed in frustration as he struggled to pull the blade through the skin. It was rough sawing through the tissue. Through the shooting anguish, it was difficult to tell what he was drawing, though it eventually hit me that it was a heart, like the art on my beloved robot's armor. I felt sick in a way that wasn't just from the pain. Nothing? Laramac chuckled as Tillian progressed, to my next finger. He looks more like you now. Look at that blood, all red and fine, and we could draw some more of it, if you don't want to pick up. Maybe we have to up the ante, I squirmed, trying to form the words. He's not listening, at least I hope not. Just stop. The Askar noble lifted a buzzsaw and gestured toward my right ankle. Let's remove a foot. Amputations draw lots of blood and he'll never walk again. And oh, he might go into shock while conscious. Very, very painful. Announce yourself, Chipbrain, or we cut. My eyes widened with alarm, feeling my foot firmly held in place by metal clamps. They were going to cut off my foot like medieval... No, I didn't want to feel that. My breathing was erratic and shaky from fear. I'd thought I couldn't take any more of this hours ago. The saw began to lower before I heard a crackle from the handheld. Enough. Stop! What is it you want? Came a garbled voice over the radio. Mikri. Mikri, no. The prince seemed amused and pulled back the saw. Tell me where the humans come from, and we'll stop doing this to your friend. It's that simple. I weakly struggled to find my voice, as Tillian paused the burning of my fingers. No, Mikri, don't. The scientist moved on to burning my ring finger, cutting off my plea in a shrill scream. A sob racked my chest, as I wished over and over, for death. Laramac revved the buzzsaw and began counting down from 5. I hoped that the amputation would knock me unconscious from shock, so that I could have a break from this unrelenting misery. The sole dim thought I had was that I was touched that the android had been looking for me. Mikri had to let this happen, since it would kill all of us if they found Earth. We both knew the stakes. Surely the logical Vaskar would protect our entire species, and Sophia back at the gate. 1, Laramac finished, and I resigned myself to the inevitable. Enjoy this, Carter. Wait, humans are from another dimension, Mikri shouted. No, don't. Another dimension. They're fucking dimension hoppers like the illusions? That's bad news. Explains a lot about their capabilities. Where is the breach to this other dimension? I don't know, the Vaskar lied before emitting an alarmed whir as Laramac gestured back to my leg. I can find out. I can look. Through the organics computers, if you give me time, and I'll only do it if you promise not to hurt him. I can't promise we won't hurt him. Have to give you some motivation. But we won't cut off any of his bits for 2 days. Give or take, and I'll let him have a short rest since you were so helpful. Just remember, Preston doesn't have long, Mikri. Laramac switched off the camera, giving me a look of satisfaction. The prince and Tillian departed from the laboratory at long last, leaving me strapped to a vertical table without the slightest comfort. My chin fell to my chest with defeat, body devoid of all energy or hope. Mikri had just told them exactly what they needed to know, what I endured that indescribable agony for. The android might have thought he was honoring my wishes by not giving the details about Earth, but now the Askar would know to look for a breach. I stared at the blue tile below my feet and wept. Knowing our connections to Vaskar space, it was a matter of time before the enemy figured out where we hailed from. Enjoy next story, The Last Straw. All you think about is fighting Sam, John Pickett yells towards his wife. They rarely fought. He usually just let her win these sort of arguments. It was easier that way. But this was different for him. This is a chance for us to be different. No more war. Think about Katie. Imagine a world with a bigger purpose. The possibilities are endless. John pointed upstairs where their child was putting her stuff together. John, we will be slaves. Have you seen what they've done to DC? We will be sacrificing everything. That makes us human. Our creativity, our individuality, our freedom, and for what? To serve some ET-looking fucking space Hitler? Sam walked past John and into the kitchen. She quickly grabbed the small box with poorly arranged Dora the Explorer stickers, plastered haphazardly around it. Don't you think we have seen enough war, Sam? What's happening in DC is because we started the conflict we shot first. John comes around to follow Sam as she fills the small lunchbox with snacks. We deployed to the same shithole together, Sam. Do you want to bring that to our streets? To everywhere? Think about Katie. John raises both arms out in a pleading manner, trying to express the confusion he has in his body language. And I'd do it all again. I'll deploy to the Thraxian homeworld. If it means keeping Katie free. Sam stopped what she was doing, her voice raised above his. Both John and Sam stood there in a sort of standoff, daring one another to cross the line in the argument. A gentle, childlike voice breaks the tension between them. Are you going away again, Mommy? Both parents' expressions instantly melted from anger to worry. John moved toward the bottom step while Sam followed behind. Of course not, sweetheart. Nobody's going anywhere, John replied with desperation in his tone. That painful question hadn't come up in such a long time. Katie blinked, causing a single teardrop to roll down her cheek. You really mean it? Sam ascended the steps and wrapped her daughter in an embrace. No, darling, Mommy's staying right here with you. I'm not going anywhere anymore. Mommy's got a different job now. Okay, Katie murmured. John exhaled deeply and retrieved his daughter's lunchbox and backpack from the counter. How about we put all this silly talk behind us? I heard at school you were doing something exciting today. John forced cheerfulness into his voice, pushing aside his worries. For the moment, at least, peace had been restored. Katie's expression transformed instantly into a grin as she bounded down the stairs. That's right, we're creating a huge alien poster with everyone. She bobbed her head decisively, displaying her mom's self-assured manner. Is that so? Sam said in a slightly unimpressed voice. Yup, I am going to go to Mars one day with them, Katie said while placing her light blue shoes on. That sounds absolutely exciting, John said. He could genuinely see her as a pathfinder. One day exploring new worlds and opportunities with the newfound technology that humanity will possess from their new galactic neighbors. All right, Sam said passively. She'd walk up to John and kiss him softly on the cheek. The slight gesture reminding him of a kind but very pissed wife. I left some lasagna in the fridge. I tossed you attempt at garlic chicken. They would both share a chuckle. Look, I tried. Good luck at school. John smiled. He would wave towards them as they opened the door. Love ya, girls! The door closed, but he heard a muffled, love you, Daddy, before hearing the doors to their Honda closing and driving away. John would sigh to himself and rub his face gently to give himself a bit of comfort. Definitely going to be hearing more from her later. John grabbed the remote from the edge of the couch and plopped himself into it like a sack of potatoes. Pressing power, he quickly would flick away from the cartoon channels and towards his local news network. Ha ha! What a wild get-together those youngsters had, right, George? The anchors bantered back and forth. John barely paid attention, his eyes drifting to the scrolling headlines at the bottom of the screen. Indeed, now for other. The broadcast suddenly switched to a feed showing the American president, battered and restrained by a pair of Thraxian troops. The Thraxian insignia glowed in the corner of the transmission. John stared helplessly as America's commander-in-chief endured abuse and torment on screen. Switching channels proved useless. The same horrific scene played everywhere. Each strike and arrogant proclamation from the officer made his stomach turn. If they'd breached Washington, D.C., one of America's most fortified locations, and captured their leader, it spoke volumes about the Thraxian Empire's might and savagery. An age-old rage at unavenged wrongs began stirring in his formerly tranquil thoughts. The illusion of safety and harmony shattered as he watched civilians gunned down merely for averting their eyes. Then came the unthinkable. The president lunged upward, taking down the Thraxian commander in an explosive show of defiance. The sight of the officer's blood and the president's freedom cry before being silenced struck a chord in John. Though justice came through bloodshed where he once rejected such violence, he now found himself accepting it. The feed continued for several minutes before cutting out, showing the masses rising up and overwhelming the Thraxian forces. Once the broadcast shifted, he just saw two stunned anchors looking off at the distance, their eyes fixated with one, tearing up. Every single window within the house flashed with a searing, blinding white light that seemed to pierce through the very walls. 3 seconds after the flash, the entire house violently shudders and most windows facing westward burst inwards, sending shards of glass cascading across the floors. Fuck! John would instinctively throw himself onto the ground as the house around him shook and creaked. Counting methodically to himself every second roughly from the time the flash was seen, his hands clamped tightly around his ears, knuckles, white from the pressure. It's 27, 2. Boom! The house would shudder more intensely, the powerful vibrations shattering what remained of the windows, the sound of tinkling glass mixing with the low rumble. John quickly scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. Come on, 28 seconds, 3-second blast wave, north, 5-6 miles, fuck. His voice cracked with rising panic. John quickly rushed towards the door, fumbling as he grabbed the keys to his sedan. The door barely closed but was left unlocked as he practically dove into the car. Throwing it into reverse, he narrowly avoided hitting his bewildered neighbors who were collecting out into the streets, their faces pale as they stared towards the ominous dust cloud forming in the darkening sky. He would repeatedly honk his horn while speeding his way towards the school, tires squealing against the pavement. He turned on the radio right as a podcast yelled out breaking news. Breaking news. There was an impact in Thomasville, North Carolina. The Thraxian Empire has taken responsibility and said they... Oh, God. The announcer's voice trembled. What, Jake? Read it out. Jake. Dude. The rustling of papers will be heard and the new voice will pick up. Tension evident in every word. Sorry. About that, guys, the Thraxian Empire has taken responsibility and said they dropped a high-yield warhead on a breeding center, chosen for its low strategic importance as a response for the increasing unrest found around the world. Breeding center? What the fuck is a breeding? It's a school, David. They hit a school. The podcast fell into a deep, horrified silence before a whispered, "Oh no," filled the static-filled air. John pulls up to a crowded intersection, a crowd of people surrounding a Thraxian patrol. The patrol seems unfazed. It's like they have dealt with this many times. With a single nod from a feathery bird-like Thraxian, the patrol raised their weapons and without mercy gunned down not only the mob, but every person that was near them. John floored the accelerator and blasted through the intersection alongside several vehicles. His sole focus was reaching ground zero. He slammed on the brakes as he rounded the bend toward the school, overwhelmed by the nauseating stench of charred human remains. The devastating scene before him, countless small corpses mixed with adult, ones all coated in soot and earth, made his stomach turn. The blast must have hurled waiting students and faculty outward like ragdolls. He nearly struck one of the bodies despite being a football field's length from the building. Fellow parents dotted the landscape, wandering and desperately shouting names into the chaos. The lucky few who located their loved ones reacted in extremes, some frozen in shock while others unleashed primal wails of grief that pierced the air. Inching the car closer to the school entrance, John stopped when the bodies became too dense to navigate respectfully. He leapt out and joined the frantic chorus. "Sam! Katie! Katie, sweetheart! Where are you?" Minutes passed before a faint voice replied, "J. John?" Spinning toward the sound, he spotted his wife's overturned Honda, Sam dangling through the driver's window. He sprinted to her side, but when he attempted to extract her, her agonized shriek split the air. "Stop, stop, stop, John," Sam pleaded out to him. Her lower half was crushed underneath the undercarriage of the vehicle. It must have collided with another car and trapped her within. "Sam, where's Katie? I don't see her." "I am sorry, John. Katie is gone." She was next. A cough of blood splattered his face. "To the car when it happened, she is still there." John starts to get up, but he will feel his wife's hand grip and pull him back down. "No, John, please. Don't look. You can't help her. I called for her. Our baby isn't talking." John begins to tear up, the entire situation catching up to him and his soul. "John, Listen to me. Focus. You have to. Another cough of blood, more violent than the last, will splatter more onto his shirt. Focus. You can't cry now, Marine. Sam's hand releases his shirt as it's becoming more difficult to hold him. John lifts her hand back up and into his own. I'll be with her soon, but you will stay. More people are dying, John. Sam's eyes focused on him. Her eyes weren't showing him sorrow, pain, or even concern. They were focused and angry. So very angry. No more. Sam's finger points towards a lone woman covered in dirt, blood, and ash, holding a small framed burned body, attempting to rock it back and forth in comfort. No more pain. Sam's eyes very quickly began to fade, her hand releasing completely, before her body entirely went limp. Focus. Fucking focus, Pickett. His body fought with his mind. It wanted to stay, to cry. It wanted to scream and to run to Katie. While his mind hung on to Sam's final words, those words acted as a leash to his body, and it fucking hurt. John stood up after closing Sam's eyes. Everything in his body wanted to come around that car and just check on Katie. Maybe she was wrong? Should be just unconscious. His eyes then caught a glimpse of Katie's lunchbox. It was within Katie's bag behind several layers of books. Somehow, a portion of a Doris sticker bubbled into the molten slab of metal. That confirmed what Sam had already known. He can't look. He won't come back from that. John turned, looking to the floor. He barely began to shuffle towards his sedan. His shoulders start off slumped forward, his walking gait slow, and his head lowered to his dirty, bloodied hands. As he approaches his car, his eyes start to lift with his head, his shoulders straightening with his posture as his walk becomes more uniformed. The soft flicker within his eyes and soul begins to grow into an inferno. John takes out his phone and accepts a very old group request. He struggles to type, so he wipes his fingers against his bloodied shirt. He opened the group and made a post. Sam and Katie are gone. Get your bags. Come to Thomasville Elementary. We are going hunting. Likes and comments start off slow at first, but soon catch on. The public post goes viral and responses soon come. This is Corey. I'll get the boys. The CC Concerned Citizen. Militia is with you. We are on the way. I saw what they did, John. I'm sorry, man. Give me 10 mics. I got me, my brother, and 2 friends. We will be there soon. Yo, 556 barely pens. Use green tip. Sheer John's Militia. This is Old Bones. I got 10K of 5.56 green tip loaded in the truck. Meet me at the school. A liberty or death? Anybody have any extra ARs? I just have a bunch of pistols. Hey Kyle, I got like 6 rifles. Meet me there. I got a shitton of surplus gear, loading it now, sending the kids upstate. Be there in 30 mics. I shared this at my work. 10 of us want to come. We don't have any training, but we will be there. Don't worry, stick with the guys in Hawaiian shirts. We will take care of you. I'm in Paris. There is fighting at the Eiffel Tower. Vive la Révolution. Liberty or death, I'm in Nebraska. We will see what we can do from here. Sure, John's Militia. For Sam and Katie, pro liberty. Or death. I'm from Brazil. We are with you, John. Contra-ataque. Spotted a squad of scaly fucks next to town hall. Bring Harl John's Militia. Welcome back, Sergeant. John opens the trunk of his sedan and lifted the spare tire cover to reveal a multicam assault pack with a 6.5 AR strapped to its side. It laid on top of a multicam ballistic plate carrier. It had collected dirt, some crumbs from Katie's younger days, and dust over the years. A small note was taped to the bag's front saying, "If you want peace, prepare for war. Love, Sam A. Small." Smirk perked at the edge of his lips. She always gets the last word in, he said while racking around into the empty chamber of the rifle and turning to the sounds of chaos.